Good afternoon. Welcome to TRK's Man Cave. Okay, we are getting ready to redo this web server that's crashed. Did an upgrade to it and it completely wiped out my server. So first of all, we're going to be taking out the screws that hold this front cover on. Take off the cover and we go ahead and set it aside, and then we end up we put our screws back in the holes here. That way we don't lose them. They're pretty nice screws. They have little grips on them where you can back them out by hand and you don't need a screwdriver. Well, the inside of the case really looks pretty good. It's pretty clean. We are going to end up taking it out and blowing it out a little bit more outside and cleaning it up. Here's the hard drives. There's 3 of them in here right now that we used to run on it, plus we had some external hard drives plugged into it too. We're going to go ahead and take off this other side cover, the back cover. That way we can get to the screws on the other side of the hard drives to get them out, and we can do some new wire management as we'll be rewiring the thing. Let's pop that cover off and we'll set it aside. Go ahead and install the screws back in the holes again so we won't lose them. Got the back plate there, the power supply, everything looks pretty good. Processor fan looks good. We definitely need to be cleaning it some more. We'll do a double check on it just to make sure it's clean. Just trying to scope out the situation here. We're not going to take the board out of it. We're just going to clean her up. We are going to take these 3 hard drives out and we're going to be replacing those. We may end up using a couple of them again. We're going to put some new ones in too. So let's get these things out of there. First, we're going to take off all the signal cables, SATA signal cables. We'll go ahead and get this first drive out here, the bottom drive. Get the screws loose. Go ahead and back them clear out. Then we'll spin this thing around, and you got to get up in here, and the screws they're kind of hard to get to, but a magnetic screwdriver usually works better for this process on this back side, but you still end up dropping them. Dropping the screws. They're hard to keep on the screwdriver. If you have long skinny fingers, you might be able to get the screws out a little easier, but I don't have, and so it makes it a little bit tough. So anyway, back on the other side here, we're going to see what it takes to pull that out. We're going to find that there's a lot of stuff in the way, so you got to be careful. Now this drive here is a smaller laptop style drive. It's actually a portable drive that I had taken out of the case some time ago, but anyway, it has an adapter that you can put it in a 3.5-inch bay. Anyway, we got that one out, and then we're getting ready to go ahead and take the second drive out here. And it's a full size 3.5. Mechanical hard drive. Take them off that side and the back side. We notice here now we're running into some problems. We have to make a path to get this thing out, because it will not back out of there, as you can see. Too much stuff in the way. So what we're going to have to do is remove that memory. Remove the memory, both modules. We're going to have to take the main cable out too, I think. But there's one module. Just not a lot of room inside there to pull those drives out backwards. Normally you put them drives in, you know, without all that stuff in there. So still, see, I've got to get this main power cable unplugged from the motherboard. You just got to be careful doing this stuff. This thing has a clip that you press and kind of wiggle out of there gently as you can. And then it still barely clears the processor fan. So you just kind of got to be careful. Take your time and get it pulled out of there. Now we've got this drive to get out. Now this computer doesn't have a CD-ROM or DVD-ROM or anything in it, because it didn't need it. It's a server machine. We don't have to worry about taking that out. And all the wires, as you see, they're kind of stuffed up in those bays, in the 5.5-inch bay, 5.25, whatever they are, 5.25, 5.5. They're where your CD-ROM goes. There, we got that one pulled out. Set it aside. So there we've got the hard drives out of it. Now we're going to take it outside and blow it out. Alright, well, we are back with a cleaner machine. Got it blown out with air and cleaned up. Now this server did crash, but it didn't, the hardware's okay. Now I'm just showing you we stuffed all them wires up in there. They're going to end up having to come out of there, possibly, to make room for things. So here is a little micro SD card. This drive here, this 1 terabyte Western Digital Black, is going to be my main drive, and I'm going to install the operating system on that one. That's going to be my second drive. That'll be the third drive I put back in. And then I'm going to put a fourth drive up in the top up here. Actually, I think that we've already put that fourth drive in there. It just didn't show it. That fourth drive is just, it's more like a file server type drive where I store files. But I'll take a moment out and say something about that. That drive, that was that original little bitty drive, that portable drive that I took out. It ended up having some problems, and I ended up taking it out and putting a 4 terabyte, I don't think it's 7200 RPM drive in there as the 4th drive. So I replaced it, put a different drive in that worked. So anyway, we got the 3rd drive in now. Or actually, let me think a minute. I think that could be the actual main drive. Number 1. Really doesn't matter. I'm putting 3 more drives in this thing. So that's number 2. I would say that drive I just put in was the number 1 drive. That's going to be the drive that I put the operating system on and run the OS off of it. We'll be installing it off of that little micro SD card. This is the number 2 drive going in, which will have website files on it from one of my websites. I'm putting these screws in, but I don't ever tighten them up until I get the screws in the back. If you tighten those up, you won't be able to get the screws in the back because these cases aren't perfect. Sometimes they're bent a little bit and you just can't line the holes up if you tighten those screws up. So don't tighten them up until you get all the screws started. Then you can go back and tighten those all up. Kind of hard to see back there in the back. I gotta flip that little flashy headlight on that I've got. Causes the camera flash in the video, but I've got to have her on so I can see. I have to invest in a different light that doesn't flash. I think I've been saying that for a few months now. So I'm going back and I'm tightening up the screws now. Now for the 3rd drive, and that'll complete the internal drive installation here in a minute. They proved to be a little bit hard to go in. This drive here is hitting the front of the case, or it's hitting something up there, and it doesn't want to go all the way in. So I have to pull it back a little bit, and it does line up with the holes. However, the screws I'm going to be using, there's a problem with them. So get that figured out. So we go ahead and get started putting this screw in, and we find that that lip that's on the case itself, it's too close to the hole. So a big-headed screw will not go in that hole and tighten down. It wants to go in and cross thread into the drive. And it's easy to cross thread these drives because it's all aluminum. So it's easy to cross thread them. So what we've got to do, we've got to find a smaller headed screw to go in that hole. So we're going to look around here for a second and see if we can't find a screw that will fit with the proper threads but a smaller head. I've collected tons and tons of screws over the years, and I keep all my screws because I end up using them. You never have too many screws. I did find one. Check this out. You see, it's a small head on that screw. It has the right threads, but here's the comparison right here. You got a small head and a large head. That large headed screw there will not go in that hole. So here's the small headed screw going in. It still goes in kind of hard, but it does go in. the other one started. And there again, I probably will not tighten that completely up. I don't know. Yeah, I did tighten it pretty tight. We'll go in the back and see if we can get her lined up. There again, in the back, it's the same way. We had to find a small-headed screw for that one hole on that side. So there we go. We've got the back secure, and we have all 4 drives installed. All right, we are getting ready to hook up the power to these drives. Trying to get in there to, I think it'll stuff around a little bit hard. It's kind of tight in there. Got to get the power supplied to these drives. You got to get those cables on the right way. There's a little cog in them that they only go one way. So that's what I'm trying to see and put in the right way so I don't break the plastic. Okay. So now I call them signal cables. They're just the SATA cables, data cables. I'm going to be putting them on here. I just have to know which one I want on which drive. I wanted them in a specific order. I'm not so sure that really matters, but I like to put them on in the way that I want the drives numbered or labeled 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I try to put them on the SATA ports 1, 2, 3, and 4. That don't always work exactly like you want it to, but at least you can try. Again, I don't really think it matters because you can designate whatever drive you want to boot. Matter of fact, you can designate it to boot off of the USB drive. So right now, what we're trying to do is just get the cabling all cleaned up there and stuffed in there. And as you see, I do have a bunch up there on the top, up there in those big bays up at the top, stuffed up out of the way. Now we've got to get our memory put back in, and because we had to get it taken out just to get the drives out and in, so got to reinstall the memory back in there and got to put her down on the table to do that, because you kind of got to push down. And if you notice, there's a notch in this memory. If you never put it in memory, that notch goes a certain way in those slots. Try to put it in the wrong way, you end up screwing something up, like the slots themselves or the memory. You can really mess them up, so you got to get them in the right orientation. Okay, you got to push straight down on that memory, and you'll usually hear clicks. You have to make sure your little ears are out on the memory, on each end of the memory slot. You push them out, and then when you push that memory down, those little things will click in, and you can usually hear it click. Not always, but you can usually hear those things click back in. Another thing you need to be careful of is pushing down on the board too hard. You could really mess up your board. So you don't want to push down too hard. We're just trying to get the memory in there, get the wires organized. This is something that, just takes time to do. You don't want to really rush this. Try to do stuff fast, you end up messing it up or not getting them seated right. You got to make sure that that memory is seated good in those slots. believe we are taking a zip tie down in there and we're zip tying something. We're getting a wire up out of the way. In these smaller cases, it's hard to get the wiring cleaned up in there. There's really just no place to put the stuff. You just have to try to get it up out of the way so there's good airflow in there to keep all your parts cool. Yeah, we're just using zip ties. I got a couple different sizes of zip ties. For the bigger stuff, I usually use a bigger zip tie to hold it all, and the smaller wires, I use the small zip ties. You can use whatever size you want. There's no standard on that. So there we go. Wires in there. Pretty much up out of the way. Then we've got the big power wire, main power wire, has got to go back down in the slot. Again, you orient that the right way. It cannot go in the wrong way. I mean, I suppose you could force it in somehow, but there's grooves or there's flat spots on some of those ports, and it'll only go on one way, and it snaps in too. And sometimes you can hear it snap, and others you can't. And there again, you need to be careful pushing down on that. Because if there's nothing underneath your board, you can push down too hard on that board and break it. And those things go in pretty hard sometimes. So I kind of put my fingers up underneath the board so that I can kind of pull up and push down at the same time. That way I'm not putting so much pressure on that board. Here I'm taking another zip tie and tying that power cable up out of the way because it's wanting to move down towards the central processing unit fan, and I need to get it up out of the way and held in place. Cut the excess off with a little pair of snips. And then there you go. So I should have good airflow here. All the wires up out of the way, airflow going up from the front to the back. Comes in the front of the case and should be sucked out the back to keep it cool. Just double checking some wires there to make sure they didn't come unseated. Looking pretty good now. We've got 4 drives installed now. The memory back in it, power back plugged in, the wires fixed up. Now let's put our covers back on. We'll take out the screws that we put in there to save so we didn't lose them. I'm going to do the back cover first. Just double check there. Notice these covers have little slot clips on them. And that clip goes over an edge right there. It holds that front edge in. And then the little clip slot groove things have to go in, and it's easy to get those out, and it'll hold the case sides out. You gotta get those in the slots and slid in. Make sure it's all in, then you can put your screws in and be done with that side. That was the back side. Make sure you don't have any wires pinching in there when you put that back cover on. So here's the front cover. Same thing here. You've got those little, for lack of terms, dog ears. They go in a slot and they hold it in, okay? As you can see, there they are. Then there's a big slot right here that slides in. And then slide it forward. Pushing on the side of the cage of the case a little bit, and slide it in there, and then you can put your screws in once you're lined up. Screws put in there. Make sure the holes wires lined up. Sometimes it doesn't like to line up. There you go. There's the machine, all put back together. Now for the big test run to see if it's going to work and install the operating system.